law of supply and demand capitalism. That's all it is. It's free market. That's all it is. Where there's competition, there's failure. That would lead to it. That would lead to it, folks. There's, it's a very important issue to understand, but I'm afraid that it's an issue that very few people seem to understand. But nonetheless, critical, absolutely, because with knowledge comes power. And that's the one thing they don't want you to have. But also remember this, you've got to not be confused, because there's a whole lot of confusion out there about these issues, and that is deliberate confusion. They convolute economic issues so you think it can't possibly be that simple, there's too many other factors and all this. No, it's not true. The truth of the matter is that if the problems go away, the relevance of these black hat criminals at the very top of this economic dog pile, their relevance go away. They're out of a job. They've got nothing. They've got the mercy of everybody else, just like you and I are. That, you go and work for your pay, well, that's what other people will do. And they say, well, I can't have that, man. There's no way. I'm not doing that job or that job or that. That's fine. And it's not even like I'm telling them they have to. The point is that they're going to get people not through coercion, and the way it is right now, you need a paycheck, so you better do this thing. It's going to be through love. It's going to be through believing in what you're doing. If there rises a Hitler on the scene, we're going to have all these brave, valiant men going off to war freely without being conscripted with money to go and kick some butt. That's the reality out there. Boat builders love to build boats. My dad loved to build boats. He built several of them very successfully. Guys love to build houses. Some people love to build cars. Other people love to garden. Other people love to do housework. Whatever it is that you love to do, and you can change whatever time you want to do something different, do it. Maybe I want to learn, how to make clothing. Who knows what I want to do? The machines are doing a lot of this work nowadays anyhow, which is, who could say it's bad? Who could say it's bad? So we need to revisit the work week. Why do we have a 40-hour work week when there's people out of work? Well, people say, well, duh, because they need the amount of money they make from a 40-hour week job. Well, then you're okay with this guy having zero work while you are well-heeled in your 40-hour work, when really, if we just had 30-hour work weeks, then that means we could have 100% employment. Do people think about these things? There's solutions right and left. They're in our faces. Simple, plentiful solutions, but they don't want it. Who are they? They're monsters. They're a gaggle of merciless criminal thugs. They're the kind like Daddy Bush making his throat-slitting motion to Donald Trump. And like his son Jeff. I will kill for my father. It's like, oh, MG, give me a break. Is that even legal? To say such an outrageous thing in front of the whole world, unabashed. Could you imagine what these kind of people do in secrecy if they do these things in front of the whole world? Cut Donald's throat and you hate him. So, here's another very powerful reason why I like Donald Trump. Because the establishment Republicans despise him. This is why it's going to be so hard for him to pull off the presidency. But if the Republicans sabotage him, they're done. As a party, they're done. They might as well join the Democrats and just become, communists, so whatever. This is what the elitists want. People don't understand. Communism isn't idealistic. It's not a sharing of the wealth like, with Robin Hood. It's not like that at all. It's all imbalance. You've still got these ruling elitists, these monsters at the very top, your George Soros characters, your Clintons and your Bushes and your Rothschild, all these robber baron types that, no names, royalty and all this stuff that are behind the scenes pulling the strings from the Bilderberger group and all this, creating the policies that continue and proliferate and flourish in the land. These evil policies that they want, this Agenda 21. All that this New World Order cabal is devious. They're devious, they're diabolical, they're cunning, they're scheming, they're evil. That's it. That's who these people are. So we're going to have that same thing. If Hillary is elected, it's going to be the status quo. And that might be the way the country votes, because they say, you know what, it's just too scary. Donald's going to rock the boat too far, and he says too many stupid, controversial things. But, the way the establishment hates him, the Pope, the Antichrist came out against him. There's another huge notch in his belt. This evil president, Vicente Fox, who won't lift a damn finger for his own people, but he's going to He's going to admonish the American people for what we're not doing for the people in his own country. I mean, it's absurd. When we've got our own native sons and daughters dying out on the streets, we're supposed to listen to these clowns? Who are they? So you can understand the reasons for liking Trump are manyfold for me. He talks about sound currency, talks about auditing the Fed a little bit, not nearly enough. And I actually haven't heard it, but I've heard through second parties that he is talking about auditing the Federal Reserve, which is a great start. We need to start somewhere. We need to hold people's feet to the fire and say we want accountability. No, we don't just want to keep on lending out more money and borrowing more money and going in debt and just raising the numbers forevermore. We all know the national debt is spiraling out of control as I speak. So how do we bind up the wound? You know, and a lot of people don't want to bind up. They say, look, I know a lot of poor people are hemorrhaging out and they're dying out in the cold. All that's true. But look, I'm doing well. I'm well healed. My family's taken care of. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing that the economy is going this direction. You know, just keep it going. We'll slow it down a little. We cut, you know, we don't need to have this genocide, you know, so much in your face. So we're going to give more money to social welfare program. We're going to do a little more here and there. And, you know, but they're never going to fix stuff. They've got no intention. So that's the establishment. That's the way they're going to roll. And I ask yourself, how has Obamacare socialism worked out for the people? He promised no new taxes. He's a raiser of taxes on the poor. Okay, you raise the cost of living to the poor significantly. That takes money out of the economy. People, anywhere they got to spend more money, they have less to spend on other stuff. It's a no-brainer. So this has not worked out good. If this is socialism, and if this is the kind of stuff Bernie Sanders has in mind, then don't expect things to get better. He'll find another way to say, well, you know, this is going to help somebody else, and, you know, that's why it's a good, benevolent, altruistic thing, and he's going to take it out of the poor because they're the easy mark, the easy target. Say, well, the other ones, you know, you're already dead at the bottom of this heap, so, you know, it can't hurt you anymore. You're already, you know, dirt poor, poverty-stricken. So, you know, you're used to it, right? Isn't that the attitude that so many of these people seem to have? But, you know, the middle, now we got to start protecting the middle class. We got to start caring, you know, protect their numbers. Well, you know, we're bleeding out. We're hemorrhaging down here and saying, well, let's put our focus over here. This guy's got an abrasion, and we got to fix that up. Isn't that the way it works? We got to make sure the criminals that stole the wealth of our nation are well heeled with these bailouts, these financial takeovers, really, in essence, and use the threat of we're going to have martial law out on the streets if you don't, you know, if you don't bail out the banks. I mean, the whole country is just going to fall apart. I mean, you know, we're going to have China invading and all kinds of problems. So, you know, you better do this or not. And so all the Congress and they all acquiesce unto the demands of these monsters. They all go along with this thing. We're bailing out the very criminals that are causing our problems. Quantitative easing for these people. All these shams and scams and charades. Okay, and Hillary Clinton, she's no more than a shill for the New World Order cabal. You can guarantee, that's a very appropriate word for her, that things are going to remain, go in the direction they're going. We're going to go on the same trajectory, the same trend that started here in California. We're going to impoverish the rest of the nation if Hillary is president. That's what's going to happen. So, you know, I don't like that. I don't like that idea at all. And Donald Trump understands what people want. They want ownership. No, yeah, they don't like the projects, but they want to own their own pad, okay, government? And it would be a lot cheaper to buy people a house than pay some landlord in perpetuity when all you're doing is exacerbating the problem. Give the money, the housing dollars, directly to the poor person, and then they can go out and make the landlords compete for that housing dollar. That would bring the price of housing down. And then maybe not so many people would be falling through the cracks, right? You see, one solution after another. I'm giving you on a silver platter here for free. I offer this advice, but nobody's listening because nobody wants the advice. Nobody in any power. I mean, anybody that's listening to me, I mean, they know that, you know, my concern is for the people at the bottom. This is where the wound is hemorrhaging. And if you want to stop the wound on the body, the collective body of humanity, bind the wound where it's logical, reasonable, practical, where it makes sense, where it's justified to bind the wound. Bind it on the poor, the very poorest poor. I want to know in my nation, the land of milk and honey, America, the greatest nation in the world, that the only people that are living out in the cold are doing it of their own free will and accord. That I know there's outreach programs, there's all kinds of stuff in place to make sure that everybody wants housing gets it. If they want to live in community housing, Have every available form of housing available so people can pick and choose. But don't make them pay. If they decide once they're healed and they feel secure that they're going to be taken care of, then you worry about putting them to work. Or they're choosing a job, a career, whatever. Okay, but in the meantime, don't expect people to go hold down a job and live in the bushes. Could you do it? Could you go to a shelter, an overcrowded shelter, with all kinds of strict rules? You can't do this, can't do that, can't have this, can't have that. Could you do it? Well, then don't expect others to do it. People need housing. It's a fundamental human right. This is what I am so fiercely opposed to, is what's happened in my society. And nobody's going to be able to blame me. I've been speaking up my whole life. I am opposed to this. I'm opposed to the debasement of our currency in regard to any specific commodity that is an essential human need, particularly housing and food. These commodities need to go down in cost, okay? At least with the food, they give the poor person the food stamps, right? So you go compete for the food manufacturer's dollar. The food manufacturer has to compete for your dollar. So poor people that are on food stamps are going to buy stuff on sale. They're going to buy generic. They're going to do this kind of stuff typically. And that keeps the competitors on their toes. That's the only thing that's kept the price of food in check to any degree. Okay, is that. So it's helped to some degree, but when they subsidize the wrong people in the equation, they give the money directly to the landlord, that just exacerbates the problem. That makes it worse. The landlord says, well, you know what, this is just great. This is how I understand why the price keeps going up, why landlords are keeping able to extract these exorbitant sums of money. Because even though I don't take Section 8, I know the industry collectively is benefiting in the terms of numbers, again, numbers, even though the worth, your housing dollars have plummeted through the floor, but the numbers for me are up. So as a special interest group, being a landlord or even just a homeowner, or if I'm the government and I go assess your property, or if I'm a real estate agent, or if I'm a lender, if I'm a builder, all you people see your numbers going up, so you're satisfied. You say, I can't concern myself with the worth. That's your problem. This is my piggy bank now. I'm glad it's retaining its worth. I'm glad, It's evil. It's evil. The heart of man is inherently evil unless you make a deliberate attempt not to be evil. The simple little innocent homeowner, they know they got one eye on what's the housing worth going for. Ooh, if I make property improvement, my piggy bank, this is it. That's how they think about it. So they don't really care so much about having this shelter that is the most important thing. They care about what's it worth. How can I make it worth more? How can I put more money in my piggy bank? They don't care that they're going to pass it along. When they sell it at a higher cost and they speculate or flip, all these people benefit from, jacking up prices, manipulating markets and price fixing. They don't care about the next guy coming along that's going to have to pay taxes based on that new price. They don't care. They say, that's for another generation. I'll be dead and gone. Okay, I don't care. All I care is that I get through this thing. And this is the way I've been trained. This is what I believe. I believe this is common sense and practical and pragmatic. I believe I'm the smart one. I believe I'm being conscientious here. Not you, you pipe-dreaming idealist. You're stupid. Even though Jesus said, no, be ye perfect. Be ye idealistic as your Father in heaven is idealistic, is perfect. Okay, ideal. Ideal means perfect, right? It's perfect. I mean, that's it. The two words are one and the same. They're synonymous. So anyhow, folks, about these protests, at these Trump rally things, this is really disgusting stuff. And, they've been toned back a little bit because I think some of these protesters got to see just how ugly their behavior was and how they sure wouldn't want somebody doing that to them. I mean, what if people that hated Bernie Sanders, that thought he was such a terrible person, and, they just started tearing him apart and just looked for every reason in the world to incriminate his character, okay? They didn't, ever pay any attention to what he was saying and confessing and repenting for and changing his mind on and saying, I'm sorry for, and apologizing and saying, look, I want to work with the people. I just want to make America great. And this is what I think is our, he thinks this and that. Well, he's on track in some ways, but he's off track in others. I mean, he's right about the industry. I mean, what are we thinking, giving our industry away? And we wonder why we're ushering in a third world status here in America? What the hell, are we stupid or what? How did the government's been doing this too. They've been assisting. and facilitating the giving away, the destruction of our economy by giving away our industry. How do we produce? How do we trade with other countries? So they're doing this on purpose. It's not in order to lift other countries, it's in order to impoverish Americans, to bring down our standard of living.